Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host, Daniel Greene, and today I'm coming to you from Nashville, Tennessee. No, I did not just travel for the holidays. I'm not that guy. I'm here helping my dad recover from surgery. So bam, he's doing well. Third surgery, done, complete, on the mend, and thank you everyone for the well wishes. Without any further ado, we're gonna go ahead and jump into fantasy news. I can't promise you videos every single day this week for obvious reasons, but I'm gonna try my damnedest, even on Christmas Day. But going ahead straight into the news, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the fact that Sanderson released his State of Sanderson 2020. And we had quite a bit of awesome coverage here for the Cosmere as a whole. Whether it's the continued talk for a Mistborn movie, the continuation of another possible Mistborn book following Wax and Wayne, and the general success of the Stormlight Archive as a whole. A lot to dig in here from fans, but nothing that's like huge breaking news right away. Just a very healthy, thriving series for us all to be excited for the future of. Think of it more like a recap of the year that's happened rather than an update on a bunch of new drops of information. It's a great way if you haven't kept up with the Cosmere perfectly to make sure you're up to date now. But just getting what I think a lot of people will consider the most important part of this out of the way, we did have his publication release schedule put here in the most up-to-date form, obviously. And for that we had, for the fall of 2021, Skyward 3, spring of 2022, Alcatraz 6, fall of 2022, Wax and Wayne 4, spring-summer of 2023, Skyward 4, and fall of 2023, Stormlight 5. So his continued schedule is one that I am blown away by because, good lord, that's a lot of words put out. And with Sanderson, it may even be a safe bet to see some of these dates pushed up rather than back because he's that guy of fantasy. Not to put that pressure on him. If he sticks to just this schedule or even does push things back, that's fine. But we know.
Now a quick word from today's sponsor.
So, I'm in Nashville right now. I don't have a green screen, but what I do have is fish and a very specific set of skills. And that set of skills allows me to tell you about Campfire Blaze and their amazing holiday special. For 20% off, you can either subscribe or do the one-time purchase currently for Campfire Blaze through the 28th. That's a pretty awesome holiday gift. So if you have had a story stuck in your head and you finally want to get it out and remove it from there, put it to the Campfire software, you can at a pretty awesome discount. That includes all kinds of amazing things. This includes things that allows you to build your own encyclopedia for your world, item tracker, character arcs, dictionaries. We've been over this. Pretty much anything you could possibly need to get the story you want out of your brain and into a tangible, organized place. And you can take it beyond that. If you're just a DM for a D&D game, not the other kind of DM, that wouldn't be useful here. You can go ahead and use Campfire to get so much of your organization done and have your party set to go, assuming they don't immediately derail everything you're trying to do. All you have to do is click the link in the description down below, use the code HOLIDAYBLAZE, and you can either use their subscription service or one-time payment, both 20% off with this, to get started right now. Now, an update to a story we recently covered here. For those of you unaware, a couple of authors who are tied to Wizard of the Coast are suing over some Dragonlance projects that were essentially just dropped without warning or compensation for the authors after they put a ton of work in. We've not seen much on this except for Margaret Weiss recently tweeted, "I know some of you have seen that our lawsuit against Wizard of the Coast was dismissed. I can't say anything yet, but watch for exciting news in the weeks to come, and thank you so much for your support." So that's pretty massive. It's like a roller coaster of emotions of a tweet like, oh, the lawsuit's dismissed. I hate that. It makes me sad. Exciting news to come. Wait, you're not sad? Something good's happening? I'm all for it. So that's kind of where this is, and we're just gonna have to wait and see. And I'm happy to be in the patiently waiting, hands folded crowd for now, because we've had enough news about lawsuits recently, so let's wait for something happy. I'm happy to wait for something happy, because I need something happy right now. And I'm actually kind of shocked about this news. Ernest Cline has said the movie for Ready Player 2 is already in early stages. I just have a question. I just have one question. Can I just ask? I just want to ask a question. Can I ask a question? Did you read it before you agreed to make the movie? Or was this one of those things where it was like, we made money on the first one, so regardless, we're gonna make a movie of the second one? Are you gonna keep the weird sex stuff where it's implied that people were recorded having sex and their experience of it without their knowledge or consent because the technology wasn't known at the time? Are you gonna keep that? Are you gonna keep the part where you just pause the main narrative thrust of the story to lecture people about Tolkien not having people of color in his books, which is a discussion that could be had, but this is extremely like blunt, obviously trying to like ham-fistedly placate people who criticized you before way. You're gonna keep that in too. Love to see how this is gonna turn out for y'all. Honestly, all jokes aside, I'm excited for the fans of this franchise and I hope it's a solid movie for you all to enjoy. I'm just gonna also meme on it because, you know, it's easy to do. And for my Pierce Brown fans out there, we had an extremely exciting update drop from him where he apparently has written a movie that's being made. Posting on Instagram, he said, "So I wrote my first film with my friend, director, actor, badass Carlson Young, and it's premiering at the 2021 Sundance Film Festival. The Blazing World is a weird, savage paranormal tale about the nightmare worlds we build to process grief. It's been Carl's passion for years, and it was a joy to work on. And to see her vision come to life, hope y'all enjoy the trip down the rabbit hole." Ooh, I love it, man. Pierce Brown is an author, as you've recently seen from my enjoying the second Red Rising book, I am a fan of at this point. And seeing sci-fi fantasy writers like push beyond the bubble they're often like kept to, I'm always going to enjoy. So I will be watching this movie as soon as I can. And for the Pierce Brown fans out there, maybe this means we're more likely to get a Red Rising movie if he proves himself. I'd like that. Pierce, get that sway in Hollywood. Like, even though I didn't love the first Red Rising book, I would absolutely love to see a movie of it. I think it would be very easy translation. Now, this will be a horror thriller though, so don't expect like your typical sci-fi fantasy romp. The plot follows a young woman, Margaret Winter, as she wades through the psychedelic hive of her earliest trauma. Speaking of movies though, we also had our first teaser drop for the Shadow and Bone upcoming adaptation. I'm sure many of you already seen it, but if you haven't, of course, link in the description right down below. And topping off the sci-fi fantasy adaptation news with a nice little cherry right there, we had the first images come out for the upcoming Halo adaptation. Oh, I'm weirdly excited about this one. I've been getting more and more into the Halo world, and all they had to do is put out images of some weapons and a Covenant hand, and suddenly I'm like, ooh, I want, give me. We have some battle rifles, we have an appendage, and with that, somehow Halo has cemented itself in one of my most anticipated adaptations coming down the road. Again, I would have never called this. For some reason, like Halo's just been something I've been like fine with, but in the last 6 months has like slowly made its way up my sci-fi like radar to one of like the pillars now. Because let's be honest, like for video games especially, this has become a beacon franchise. Speaking of video games though, I'd like to mention how Wonder Woman has had its debut overseas in China and had an extremely disappointing box office return. We're not getting it here in America until Christmas, but apparently in China they have only made $18.8 million, and its total foreign return so far has been a measly 38.5. Ugh. Now, superhero movies are usually more popular in the States, but this is just not a good sign for the future lifespan of theaters as a whole, especially with this dropping with a hybrid release of at home and in theaters simultaneously. Something that has, of course, as we've seen recently, caused tremendous waves in Hollywood, and the ramifications of which are still yet to be seen. I want to compare this though to the meteoric success video games have had in 2020. And I do think one of the long-term changes we're going to see as a result of this year is video games be taken more seriously as a form of entertainment. Despite being an incredible money sack, still video games are often written off as a lesser form of entertainment. We've already seen a similar change of this with TV shows over the last few years, where it used to be looked down upon to be an actor or director who worked in television, but now some of the greatest projects Hollywood is producing, and the most respected ones, are shows. My prediction is in 5 to 10 years we're going to see a similar shift for video games, and it's well overdue, with stories like The Last of Us especially deserving the credit and recognition on a similar level we see for some of the greatest stories told in other mediums. And it goes into something I've been preaching for quite some time on this channel. A well-told story transcends the box it's given to you in. I'm not saying that medium means nothing. Of course it changes how you experience it, but I think a well-told story can be enjoyed through any medium. I don't know, maybe I'm going too far with this, but I'd like to see your thoughts as well. And I'm purely including this because I think it's fun news, and it's kind of like, hey, the space race is back on. But boringer? It seems that Russia is trying to get an actress in space before Tom Cruise takes his first flight. For those of you unaware, Tom Cruise has apparently booked a ticket to get into space, which will be the first time a private citizen has paid money to go ahead and shoot his way on up there. But Russia wants to beat him, so we're getting the space race again, but boring. Yay! This is kind of interesting for sci-fi fans. For those of you unaware, during the space race, we had some of the most brilliant minds of sci-fi working, and they were obviously often clearly inspired by the work being done. I just hope we have a similar, maybe, result from here. Someone want to write the sci-fi book equivalent of Tom Cruise trying to beat a Russian actress into space? But this has been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. And have a good one, y'all. Peace. And of course, I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest high tier Patreons, Marie Morrow, Fernando Rosales, Melinda J. Trope. Have a good one, y'all.